I've always hated flying. The recycled air, the cramped seats, the constant fear of plummeting to my death. None of it appealed to me, but here, I was reluctantly boarding a flight to Madison for some godforsaken bartending competition. My boss had insisted I enter. At 52, I thought I was past the point of needing to prove myself, but apparently not. As I shuffled down the aisle, carry-on in tow, I silently cursed my fate. That's when I saw her, a vision of blonde perfection occupying the window seat next to mine. Our eyes met, and for a moment, I forgot how to breathe. "Hi there," she said, with a smile that could melt glaciers. "Looks like we're seatmates." I managed to stammer out a greeting as I stowed my bag and settled in beside her. Up close, I could see her eyes were a mesmerizing shade of blue, like the ocean on a perfect summer day. "I am Eloise," she offered, extending a perfectly manicured hand. "Julie," I replied, hoping my palm wasn't too sweaty as I shook her hand. "Nice to meet you." We exchanged pleasantries as the rest of the passengers boarded. Eloise, I learned, was a 34-year-old marketing executive, headed to Madison for a conference. I found myself hanging on her every word, captivated by her energy and quick wit. As the plane began to taxi, my anxiety kicked into overdrive. I gripped the armrests, my knuckles turning white. Eloise noticed and placed a comforting hand on mine. "First time flying?" she asked gently. I shook my head. "No, just never got used to it. I am more of a feet on the ground kind of gal." "Well, you are in luck," Eloise said with a wink. I happened to be an excellent distraction, and distract me she did. For the next 3 hours we talked about everything under the sun. I told her about my bartending career, and she shared stories from her globe-trotting adventures in marketing. Time seemed to fly by, pun intended, as we laughed and bonded over our shared love of obscure 80s movies and terrible puns. About halfway through the flight, we hit some turbulence. The plane shook violently, and I let out an embarrassing squeak of fear. Without hesitation, Eloise took my hand in hers and gave it a reassuring squeeze. "Hey, it's okay," she said softly. "Just look at me and breathe." I did as she instructed, losing myself in those ocean blue eyes. As I focused on her, the world around us seemed to fade away. The turbulence continued, but I barely noticed. All I could think about was the warmth of her hand in mine, and the gentle rise and fall of her chest as she breathed with me. When the shaking finally subsided, I realized I was still clutching Eloise's hand. I quickly let go, feeling a blush creep up my cheeks. "Thank you," I mumbled, embarrassed by my reaction. "Anytime," she replied with a soft smile. "That's what friends are for, right? Friends?" The word sent a confusing mix of emotions through me. On one hand, I was thrilled at the idea of being friends with this incredible woman. On the other, there was a part of me, a part I wasn't quite ready to acknowledge, that wanted something more. As we began our descent into Madison, Eloise and I exchanged contact information. She insisted I let her know how the bartending competition went, and I found myself looking forward to staying in touch. When we finally disembarked, I felt a pang of sadness at the thought of saying goodbye. But as we walked together through the terminal, Eloise surprised me by asking, "So, where are you staying while you are in town?" I told her the name of my hotel, and her face lit up. "No way, that's right around the corner from my conference. We should grab dinner one night if you are free." My heart did a little somersault at the suggestion. "I'd love that," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. As we parted ways at the baggage claim, Eloise gave me a quick hug. "It was really great meeting you, Julie," she said. "I have a feeling this is the start of a beautiful friendship." Watching her walk away, her blonde hair bouncing with each step, I couldn't help but agree. Whatever this was, friendship or something more, I knew my life had changed the moment Eloise Perez sat down next to me on that plane. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a wild ride that would turn my world upside down and challenge everything I thought I knew about love, life, and myself. The competition was in full swing, and I was in my element. Shakers rattling, spirits flowing, and the satisfying clink of ice in glasses filled the air. I'd made it to the finals, and my hands moved with practiced precision as I crafted my signature cocktail. As I poured the vibrant concoction into a chilled glass, I caught a glimpse of familiar blonde hair in the crowd. My heart skipped a beat. Eloise was here, watching me work. Our eyes met, and she gave me an encouraging thumbs up. Somehow her presence both calmed and excited me. I finished my presentation with a flourish, earning appreciative murmurs from the judges. After the competition, I placed second, thank you very much. Eloise made her way to the bar where I was cleaning up. That was incredible, she gushed. I had no idea you were so talented. I felt my cheeks flush at her praise. Thanks, I said, trying to play it cool. What brings you here? I thought you had a conference. Oh, I do, she replied with a mischievous grin. But I couldn't pass up the chance to see you in action. Plus, I could use some expert advice. Oh? I raised an eyebrow, intrigued. I am hosting a cocktail party for some potential clients tomorrow night, Eloise explained. I was hoping you might have some recommendations for impressive yet easy-to-make drinks. I couldn't help but smile. Well, you've come to the right place. Pull up a stool, and let's talk mixology. For the next hour, I walked Eloise through various cocktail recipes, explaining the nuances of different spirits and the importance of quality ingredients. She was an attentive student, asking ish-deep questions, and even convincing me to demonstrate a few techniques. As I shook up a classic martini for her, Eloise's eyes lit up. You know, she said thoughtfully, you should really share these skills with a wider audience. I laughed, sliding the drink towards her. What, like teaching a class or something? No, I mean online, Eloise said, taking a sip and letting out a satisfied, that did funny things to my insides. You could start a YouTube channel or something. I bet people would love to learn from you. I scoffed at the idea. Me, on the internet, I barely know how to use my smartphone, Eloise. She leaned in, her blue eyes sparkling with excitement. That's where I come in. I could help you set everything up, maybe even manage your social media. Trust me, Julie, you've got star potential. I wanted to dismiss the idea outright, but something in Eloise's earnest expression made me pause. I don't know, I said hesitantly. It seems like a lot of work, and I'm not exactly comfortable in front of a camera. Just think about it, Eloise urged. You could reach so many people, share your passion, and who knows, it might even be fun. As skeptical as I was, I found myself considering it. There was something infectious about Eloise's enthusiasm, and I couldn't deny the appeal of sharing my craft with others. Over the next few weeks, Eloise and I fell into a comfortable routine. She'd stop by the bar after work, and we'd chat about our days while I mixed drinks. Sometimes she'd bring her laptop and work on marketing strategies while I tended to other customers. It was nice having her there, comforting in a way I hadn't experienced in a long time. One quiet Tuesday evening, Eloise broached the subject again. So, have you given any more thought to the YouTube idea? I sighed, wiping down the bar. I have, actually. And maybe it's not such a crazy idea after all. Eloise's face lit up like a Christmas tree. Really? Oh, Julie, that's fantastic. We could start small, maybe just a few simple cocktail tutorials to begin with. I've got some ideas for branding and… Whoa! Slow down there, partner, I laughed, holding up my hands. I said, maybe. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But Eloise's excitement was contagious, and soon enough I found myself agreeing to film a test video we set up in my tiny apartment kitchen, using my phone as a camera. I felt awkward and self-conscious at first, stumbling over my words as I tried to explain how to make a mojito. Relax, Eloise said softly, stepping closer to adjust the angle of the phone. Just pretend you are talking to me, sharing your knowledge like you do at the bar. I took a deep breath, inhaling the subtle scent of her perfume. Our eyes met, and for a moment the rest of the world faded away. Then, clearing my throat, I turned back to the camera and started again. This time, the words flowed more naturally. I found myself falling into the familiar rhythm of mixing drinks, my hands moving with practiced ease as I explained each step. Before I knew it, the video was done, and Eloise was beaming at me. That was perfect, she exclaimed, rushing over to show me the playback. See? I told you you'd be a natural. Watching myself on the tiny screen, I had to admit it wasn't half bad. Maybe, just maybe, this crazy idea could work. As the weeks went by, Eloise and I spent more and more time together, working on what was rapidly becoming our project. We'd meet at my place after work, filming videos and brainstorming ideas for future content. Eloise taught me the basics of editing, and I found myself actually enjoying the process of putting the videos together. One night, as we sat side by side on my couch, laptops balanced on our knees, I caught myself staring at Eloise's profile. The soft glow of the screen illuminated her features, highlighting the curve of her cheek and the slight furrow of concentration between her brows. My heart did a little flip in my chest, and I quickly looked away, hoping she hadn't noticed. But as I refocused on my own screen, I felt Eloise's hand brush against mine. It was just for a moment, probably accidental, but it sent a jolt of electricity through me. I glanced at her out of the corner of my eye, but she was still focused on her work, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. As I turned back to my editing, I couldn't help but wonder, was this still just a friendship, or was it slowly evolving into something more? The thought both thrilled and terrified me. At 52, I'd long since given up on the idea of finding love, especially with someone as vibrant and beautiful as Eloise. But as we sat there in comfortable silence, working side by side, I couldn't deny the warmth spreading through my chest. Whatever this was, whatever it might become, I knew one thing for certain. My life was infinitely better with Eloise Perez in it. I never expected to become an internet sensation at my age, but life has a funny way of surprising you. What started as a crazy idea from Eloise had somehow snowballed into a full-blown phenomenon. Our little cocktail channel had exploded overnight, and suddenly, I found myself, with hundreds of thousands of followers, hanging on my every word, or, more accurately, my every pore. The first video we posted was a simple tutorial on how to make a perfect old-fashioned. I'd been nervous as hell, my hands shaking slightly as I walked through the steps. But Eloise's encouragement from behind the camera had steadied me, and somehow, I'd made it through without embarrassing myself too badly. We posted the video late one Friday night, both of us a little tipsy from taste testing the finished product. There, Eloise had said, hitting the upload button with a flourish, "Now we wait and see what happens." What happened was beyond our wildest dreams. By Monday morning, the video had over 1 million views. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing with notifications, and Eloise was practically bouncing off the walls with excitement. "Julie, do you realize what this means?" she'd squealed, showing me the analytics. "You are a viral sensation." I'd laughed it off at first, sure it was some kind of fluke. But as the weeks went by and our subscriber count kept climbing, I had to admit that maybe, just maybe, we were onto something special. The success of the channel brought a whirlwind of changes to my life. Suddenly, I was fielding calls from media outlets, wanting interviews, and brands were reaching out for sponsorship deals. It was overwhelming to say the least. But through it all, Eloise was my rock. She handled the business side of things with effortless grace, negotiating contracts and managing our increasingly hectic schedule. I don't know how I would have coped without her by my side. As our online presence grew, so did the time we spent together. Late-night editing sessions became the norm. With Eloise sprawled on my couch, her laptop balanced precariously on her knees as she worked her magic on our latest video. One such night as I brought her a fresh cup of coffee, I caught myself staring at her. The soft glow of the screen illuminated her face, highlighting the curve of her cheek and the slight furrow of concentration between her brows. My heart did a little flip in my chest, and I quickly looked away, hoping she hadn't noticed. "Earth to Julie," Eloise's voice broke through my reverie. "You okay there? You looked like you were 1,000,000 miles away." I felt a blush creep up my cheeks. "Oh, just lost in thought," I mumbled, handing her the coffee. "So how's the editing coming along?" Eloise took a sip and let out a contented sigh. "Almost done. This summer cocktail series is going to be a hit, I can feel it." I settled down beside her, close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from her body. "Well, with your editing skills, I am sure it will be." She nudged me playfully with her shoulder. "Hey, give yourself some credit. You're the star of the show after all," I scoffed, but couldn't help the small smile that tugged at my lips. "I still can't believe people actually want to watch me make drinks. Are you kidding?" Eloise turned to face me, her blue eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "Julie, you are amazing. The way you talk about cocktails, the passion in your voice, It's mesmerizing. People can see how much you love what you do, and that's what draws them in." Her words sent a warm flutter through my chest. "You really think so?" "I know so," she said softly, reaching out to tuck a stray strand of hair behind my ear. Her fingers lingered for a moment, brushing against my cheek, and I felt my breath catch in my throat. For a heartbeat, the world seemed to stand still. I found myself lost in Eloise's eyes, drowning in their depths. The air between us crackled with unspoken tension, and I swear I could hear my own heartbeat thundering in my ears. But then, the moment passed. Eloise cleared her throat and turned back to her laptop, and I was left wondering if I'd imagined the whole thing. As the weeks went by, our channel continued to grow, and so did the undeniable attraction between Eloise and me. Every accidental brush of hands, every shared laugh, every late-night conversation seemed charged with something more than just friendship, but I was terrified to make a move. The age gap between us felt like a chasm, and I couldn't shake the fear that I was reading too much into things. After all, why would someone as vibrant and beautiful as Eloise be interested in someone like me? One evening, as we were setting up to film a new video, Eloise surprised me with a suggestion. "Hey, I was thinking," she said, fiddling with the camera. "Maybe we should do a video together, have me join you on screen for a change." I raised an eyebrow. "You want to be in front of the camera?" she shrugged, a slight blush coloring her cheeks. "Why not? I think our viewers would love to see the face behind all the social media magic. Plus, it might be fun to shake things up a bit." The idea of having Eloise on camera with me sent a thrill of excitement through me. "All right," I agreed, trying to keep my voice steady. "What did you have in mind? How about a cocktail challenge?" Her eyes lit up with mischief. "You teach me how to make a complicated drink, and we see how I measure up to the master." I couldn't help but laugh. "Oh, you are on, Missy. But don't come crying to me when you realize how hard it is to make a perfect Ramos gin fizz." We spent the next hour filming, and it was some of the most fun I'd had in years. Eloise was a natural on camera, her wit and charm shining through as she attempted, and hilariously failed, to recreate my carefully crafted cocktail. By the end of the video, we were both in stitches, covered in egg white, and with more than a little gin spilled on the counter. As I called cut on the final take, Eloise turned to me, her eyes dancing with laughter. "Well," she said, wiping a smear of cocktail foam from her cheek, "I think it's safe to say I won't be taking your job anytime soon." I reached out without thinking, using my thumb to wipe away a spot she'd missed. "I don't know," I teased, my hand lingering perhaps a moment too long. "You might have a future in comedy bartending." Eloise's breath hitched, and I suddenly realized how close we were standing. I could see the flecks of gray in her blue eyes, count each of her eyelashes if I wanted to. The air between us grew thick with tension, and for a wild moment I thought she might kiss me, but then my phone buzzed loudly, shattering the moment. We jumped apart, both a little flustered, and I fumbled to check the message. It's the brand we were talking to about that sponsorship," I said, my voice sounding strained even to my own ears. "They want to set up a meeting for next week." Eloise nodded, smoothing down her shirt and avoiding my gaze. "Right, yes, that's great news. We should probably start cleaning up here." As we tidied the kitchen in awkward silence, I couldn't help but wonder what might have happened if my phone hadn't gone off. Would Eloise have kissed me? Would I have kissed her? And more importantly, where do we go from here? One thing was certain. Our relationship, whatever it was, had shifted. And as terrifying as that was, a part of me couldn't wait to see where it might lead. The tension between Eloise and me had been building for weeks, simmering just beneath the surface of our interactions. Every accidental touch, every lingering glance felt charged with possibility, but I was terrified to make a move, convinced that someone as vibrant and beautiful as Eloise couldn't possibly be interested in a woman my age. One evening, as we were editing our latest video, Eloise suddenly turned to me. "Julie," she said, her voice soft but determined, "I think we need to talk about this." She gestured vaguely between us. My heart leapt into my throat. "Dis?" I echoed, trying to keep my voice steady. Eloise took a deep breath. "The way things have been between us lately, the tension, the attraction." She looked at me, her blue eyes searching mine, Please tell me I am not imagining it. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Here it was, the moment I'd both longed for and dreaded. You are not imagining it, I whispered. Relief flooded her features, followed quickly by a spark of something more intense. She leaned in her hand, coming up to cut my cheek. Thank God, she murmured, and then her lips were on mine. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, but it quickly deepened as years of pent-up longing poured out of both of us. I tangled my fingers in her hair, marveling at its silky texture, as her hands roamed my back, pulling me closer. When we finally broke apart, both breathless, I couldn't help but laugh. Well, I said, that certainly clears things up. Eloise grinned, her cheeks flushed. I've wanted to do that for so long, she admitted. Why didn't you? I asked, genuinely curious. She shrugged, suddenly looking a bit shy. I wasn't sure if you felt the same way, and I was worried about the age difference, I snorted. Trust me, I was having the exact same concerns. We spent the rest of the evening talking, really talking, about our feelings and fears. It was cathartic, finally laying everything out in the open. By the time Eloise left that night with a promise of a proper date the following evening, I felt like I was walking on air. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of stolen kisses and secret smiles. We decided to keep our relationship under wraps for the time being, not wanting to deal with the public scrutiny that would inevitably come with revealing our romance to our growing online audience. But of course, life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. It happened during a live streaming event we were doing to celebrate hitting 1 million subscribers. We were taking questions from viewers, laughing and joking as we mixed drinks and shared stories. Then came the question that changed everything. Are you two dating? You have amazing chemistry? I froze, the cocktail shaker slipping from my suddenly numb fingers. Eloise, ever the professional, smoothly picked up the conversation, deflecting the question with a laugh and a vague comment about being great friends, but the damage was done. The chat exploded with speculation, and I could practically see the rumors spreading across social media in real time after we ended the stream. Eloise turned to me, her face pale. What do we do now? I sighed, running a hand through my hair. I don't know. I guess we could come clean. The thought terrified me, not because I was ashamed of our relationship, far from it, but because I knew the moment we went public, everything would change. We'd be scrutinized, judged, picked apart by strangers on the internet. Before we could discuss it further, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my brother Tom. Just saw your live stream. Call me ASAP. My stomach dropped. Tom was the only family member I was close to, but we'd never really discussed my sexuality. I'd always been private about my personal life, and he'd never pushed. With shaking hands, I dialed his number. Hey Tom, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Julie, he said, his tone unreadable. Is it true? Are you and Eloise? I took a deep breath, glancing at Eloise, who nodded encouragingly. Yes, I said. We're together. There was a long pause, and I felt my heart pounding in my chest. Then, to my immense relief, Tom chuckled. Well, it's about damn time you found someone. She seems lovely. Tears pricked at my eyes. You are okay with this. Of course I am, sis, he said warmly. All I've ever wanted is for you to be happy, and from what I've seen, Eloise makes you very happy indeed. As I hung up the phone, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. I turned to Eloise, who was watching me with concern. It's okay, I said, smiling through my tears. Tom's happy for us. Eloise pulled me into a tight hug and I melted into her embrace. See? She murmured into my hair. It's going to be all right. But our moment of peace was short-lived. My phone buzzed again, this time with a notification from our channel's management team. The subject line made my blood run cold. Urgent. Address relationship rumors as Hey P. Eloise read the email over my shoulder, her brow furrowing. They want us to make a statement, she said, her voice tight. I nodded, feeling a mix of fear and determination. I guess it's time to face the music. We spent the next hour crafting a carefully worded post, announcing our relationship and asking for privacy and understanding. As Eloise's finger hovered over the post button, she turned to me. "Are you sure about this?" she asked softly. I took her free hand in mine, intertwining our fingers. "I'm sure about you," I said. "The rest, we'll figure out together." With a deep breath, Eloise hit post. For better or worse, our relationship was now public knowledge. As we waited for the reactions to start pouring in, I couldn't help but feel a mix of terror and exhilaration. This was uncharted territory for both of us, but as I looked at Eloise, her blue eyes filled with love and determination, I knew we could face anything as long as we were together. Little did I know, the real challenges were only just beginning. Our age difference, which had seemed inconsequential in private, was about to become a very public topic of discussion. And not everyone would be as accepting as my brother Tom. But in that moment, with Eloise's hand in mine, and our future stretched out before us, I felt ready to take on the world. Whatever came next, we would face it together. The aftermath of our announcement was like a tidal wave. One moment, Eloise and I were just two people in love, and the next, we were at the center of a media storm. Our phones buzzed constantly with notifications, our inboxes overflowed, and it seemed like everyone had an opinion about our relationship. Most of our followers were supportive, flooding our social media with heart emojis and words of encouragement. But there were also the naysayers, the trolls, and the downright cruel comments that made my stomach churn. Cradle robber, they called me, gold digger, they labeled Eloise. The age gap between us, which had never mattered when we were alone, suddenly became the topic of heated debates among strangers on the internet. I tried to brush it off to focus on the positive comments and the love we shared, but some nights, as I lay awake next to Eloise, I couldn't help but wonder if they were right. Was I too old for her? Was I holding her back from living her best life? Eloise, bless her heart, seemed to sense my doubts. One morning, as we sipped coffee in my tiny kitchen, she took my hand and looked me straight in the eye. "Julie Bennett," she said firmly, "don't you dare let those idiots online get in your head. I love you, wrinkles and all." I couldn't help but laugh, even as tears pricked at my eyes. "Wrinkles? I'll have you know I moisturize religiously." She grinned, leaning in to kiss me softly. "And it shows. You are gorgeous, inside and out." Just as we were finding our footing in this new public version of our relationship, another complication arose. My phone rang one afternoon, and I was surprised to see my mother's name on the caller ID. We hadn't spoken in months, not since I'd missed the last family reunion. With a sense of dread, I answered. "Hello, Julie." My mother's voice was clipped, formal. "I saw your announcement on mine." I swallowed hard. "Oh, you did?" "Yes. I have to say, I am disappointed you didn't tell us yourself, finding out about your lifestyle from the internet of all places." I felt a familiar mix of guilt and frustration bubble up inside me. "Mom, and this girl," she continued as if I hadn't spoken, "she's so young. Are you sure this isn't just some sort of midlife crisis?" Her words stung more than I cared to admit. "It's not a crisis, Mom. Eloise and I love each other. She makes me happy." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Finally, my mother sighed. "I just don't understand, Julie. This isn't how we raised you." I closed my eyes, fighting back tears. "I am still the same person, Mom. I am still your daughter. I am just in love." Another pause, this one even longer. "I need time to process this," she said finally. "Please don't call for a while. I'll be in touch when I'm ready." The line went dead before I could respond. I stood there, phone in hand, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. Eloise found me like that a few minutes later, and without a word, she wrapped me in her arms and held me as I cried. As if the situation with my family wasn't stressful enough, our professional lives were in turmoil too. Some of our sponsors were getting cold feet, worried about being associated with a controversial couple. Our management team was in crisis mode, trying to spin the situation positively while fielding calls from media outlets wanting interviews. Eloise, ever the problem solver, threw herself into damage control, She spent hours on the phone, reassuring sponsors and negotiating with our team. I marveled at her strength, her determination to fight for us and for the brand we'd built together. One evening, as we sat surrounded by takeout containers and laptops, Eloise looked up at me with a mischievous glint in her eye. "You know," she said, "maybe we should give them something to really talk about." I raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" She grinned, closing her laptop and crawling over to me on the couch. "I mean," she said, her voice low and seductive, "maybe we should show them just how in love we are." Before I could respond, she was kissing me, her hands tangling in my hair. I melted into her embrace, all thoughts of work and family drama momentarily forgotten. Later, as we lay tangled together, breathless and giddy, Eloise propped herself up on one elbow and looked at me seriously. "Julie," she said, "I want you to know that I am in this for the long haul. No matter what anyone says, no matter how hard it gets, you are it for me." I felt my heart swell with love and gratitude. "You are it for me too," I whispered, pulling her down for another kiss. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of interviews, meetings, and more social media management than I ever thought possible. We decided to tackle the rumors and criticism head on, doing a live Q and a session where we answered questions about our relationship, honestly and openly. To our surprise and relief, the response was overwhelmingly positive. Our followers seemed to appreciate our candor, and even some of the initial skeptics began to come around. But just as things were starting to look up, another curveball came our way. Eloise received a job offer from a major marketing firm in California. It was the kind of opportunity that comes once in a lifetime, a chance to work with some of the biggest names in the industry, to take her career to new heights. When she told me about it, I felt my heart drop. That's amazing, Elle," I said, trying to muster up enthusiasm. "You have to take it." Eloise frowned, studying my face. "But what about us? What about the channel?" I forced a smile. "We'll figure it out. I can't ask you to give up your dreams for me." She was quiet for a long moment, her blue eyes searching mine. Then, to my surprise, she shook her head. "No," she said firmly, "I am not going anywhere." "Eloise," I started to protest, but she cut me off with a kiss. "Listen to me, Julie Bennett," she said when we parted. "You are my dream. This life we're building together, this crazy, wonderful adventure, that's what I want. A job is just a job. But you are everything." As I looked into her eyes, seeing the love and determination there, I felt a wave of emotion wash over me. This beautiful, brilliant woman had chosen me, had stood by me through all the chaos and criticism. And in that moment, I knew with absolute certainty that we could face anything, life threw our way. Little did I know, our biggest challenge was just around the corner. But for now, wrapped in Eloise's arms, I allowed myself to believe that love really could conquer all. The aftermath of Eloise turning down the California job offer should have been a moment of celebration for us. Instead, it became the catalyst for the biggest challenge our relationship had faced yet. It started with a phone call. Eloise was in the kitchen, whipping up one of her infamous experimental cocktails when her cell rang. From where I sat on the couch, I could see her expression shift from curiosity to shock, then anger. "No, that's not. You can't just... Daniel, please," she pleaded into the phone. My heart sank. Daniel was Eloise's ex-husband, a man I'd heard plenty about, but never met. When she finally hung up, Eloise looked like she'd seen a ghost. "He's coming to Madison," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "He says he wants to talk things through and win me back." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "What? Why now?" Eloise shook her head, looking lost. "Apparently he saw our announcement online. He doesn't believe it's real. He thinks I'm just going through a phase or something." The next few days were tense. Eloise was on edge, jumping every time her phone buzzed. I tried to be supportive, but I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that Daniel's arrival could change everything. When he finally showed up at our door, I was struck by how normal he looked. Tall, reasonably handsome, with a charming smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "You must be Julie," he said, extending his hand. "I've heard so much about you." I shook his hand, feeling like I was in some sort of bizarre dream. "Can't say the same," I replied, unable to keep the edge out of my voice. Daniel's presence in Madison threw our lives into chaos. He was constantly calling Eloise, showing up at her favorite spots, even trying to crash our video shoots. It was like he was everywhere, a constant reminder of Eloise's past life. One evening, after a particularly stressful day of dodging Daniel's attempts to reconnect, Eloise and I were curled up on the couch, a half-empty bottle of wine between us. "Maybe," Eloise began, her voice small, "maybe we should take a break from the channel for a while, just until things calm down." I felt my heart rate spike. "What do you mean, take a break?" she sighed, running a hand through her hair. "It's just, all this attention, the pressure, and now, with Daniel here, I feel like I can't breathe sometimes." I sat up straighter, feeling a chill run down my spine. "Eloise, are you having second thoughts about us?" Her eyes widened. "No, God no. I love you, Julie. It's just complicated." But the seed of doubt had been planted. Over the next few days, I found myself watching Eloise closely, analyzing her every word and gesture. Was she pulling away? Was Daniel's presence making her reconsider her choices? The situation came to a head at a local bar where we'd gone to film a segment on craft beers. We were just setting up when Daniel walked in, as if by chance. "Elle," he called out, ignoring me completely. "Fancy seeing you here." I watched as Eloise's face cycled through a range of emotions: surprise, annoyance, and something else I couldn't quite place. Guilt, maybe. "Daniel," she said, her voice tight, "what are you doing here?" He shrugged, flashing that charming smile. "Just thought I'd grab a drink. Mind if I join you?" Before Eloise could respond, I stepped in. "Actually, we're working, so if you don't mind." Daniel's eyes narrowed slightly as he looked at me. "Right. The famous YouTube channel. You know, Elle always did have a flair for the dramatic. Remember that time in Cancun when you convinced the entire resort you were a famous actress?" Eloise laughed, a genuine laugh that made my stomach twist. God, I'd forgotten about that. We were so young and stupid. I watched as they fell into easy conversation, reminiscing about shared experiences and inside jokes. I felt like an outsider, a spectator in my own relationship. That night as we lay in bed, I finally voiced the fear that had been gnawing at me. "Elle," I said softly, "are you sure this is what you want us, I mean?" She propped herself up on one elbow, looking at me with concern. "Of course it is. Why would you ask that?" I swallowed hard, fighting back tears. "It's just seeing you with Daniel. You have all this history, all these shared experiences, and I am so much older and—" "Stop," Eloise said firmly, placing a finger on my lips. "Julie Bennett, you listen to me. Yes, Daniel and I have history, but that's all it is, history. You are my present and my future. I love you." I wanted to believe her, I really did. But as I drifted off to sleep that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted between us. The next morning, I woke up to an empty bed and a note on the pillow. "Gone for coffee with Daniel. Need to clear the air. Back soon. Love you." I stared at the note, feeling my world crumbling around me. Was this it? Was this how our story ended? In that moment, I made a decision. If Eloise was having doubts, if she needed space to figure things out, I would give it to her. Even if it broke my heart in the process. I packed a small bag, scribbled a note of my own, and slipped out of the apartment before Eloise returned. As I climbed into my car, I took one last look at the building that had been the backdrop to our love story. "Goodbye, Elle," I whispered, wiping away a stray tear. "I hope you find what you're looking for." As I drove away, I tried to convince myself that I was doing the right thing, that if our love was meant to be, it would find a way. But the ache in my chest told a different story. Little did I know my impulsive decision would set in motion a chain of events that would test our love in ways we never could have imagined. I'd been driving for hours, no real destination in mind, just putting distance between myself and Madison, between myself and Eloise. The radio played softly in the background, a melancholy country song that seemed to echo the ache in my chest. As the sun began to set, I pulled into a small, roadside motel. It was the kind of place I would have turned my nose up at in the past, but now it seemed fitting for my current state of mind. The room was small and musty, with faded floral wallpaper and a bed that creaked ominously when I sat down. I pulled out my phone, staring at the screen. No calls, no messages. I wasn't sure if that made me feel better or worse. I thought about calling Tom, but I couldn't bear the thought of explaining what had happened. Instead, I opened up our YouTube channel, scrolling through the videos Eloise and I had made together. God, we looked so happy. Had it all been an illusion? As I watched our latest video, something caught my eye. In the background, barely visible, was a small whiteboard where we jotted down ideas for future episodes. And there, in Eloise's loopy handwriting, were the words, Julie plus Eloise forever. My heart clenched. How could I have doubted her? How could I have let my insecurities get the better of me? Before I could second-guess myself, I was dialing Eloise's number. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Then, Julie? Oh my God, Julie, where are you? Her voice was frantic, tear-filled. I felt a wave of guilt wash over me. I'm so sorry. I am sorry. She cut me off. I should never have gone to meet Daniel. I just wanted to tell him once and for all that it was over between us. But when I got back and found your note, Julie, I thought I'd lost you. I closed my eyes, fighting back tears. You could never lose me, Elle. I am the one who ran away like a coward. Then come back, she pleaded. Come home to me. I was in my car and on the road before the call even ended. The drive back to Madison seemed to take forever. But finally, I was pulling up outside our apartment. Eloise was waiting for me on the steps, her hair a mess, her eyes red-rimmed from crying. The moment she saw me, she launched herself into my arms. Don't you ever do that to me again, Julie Bennett? She mumbled into my neck. I thought my heart was going to break. I held her tight, breathing in her familiar scent. I am sorry, I whispered. I let my fears get the better of me. I thought maybe you'd realized you'd made a mistake with me. Eloise pulled back, cupping my face in her hands. You listen to me, she said fiercely. You are not a mistake. You are the best thing that's ever happened to me. I love you, Julie. All of you. Your laugh lines, your graying hair, your silly dad jokes. I love it all. I couldn't help but chuckle through my tears. Hey, my jokes are hilarious, she grinned, leaning in to kiss me softly. They really aren't, but I love you anyway. As we stood there holding each other under the soft glow of the streetlights, I felt something shift inside me. The last lingering doubts, the insecurities about our age difference, they all melted away. Elle, I said softly, I think I am ready. She pulled back, looking at me quizzically. Ready for what? I took a deep breath. Ready to stop hiding. Ready to show the world who we really are. If you'll have me, that is. Eloise's eyes widened. Julie Bennett, are you proposing to me? I laughed, suddenly feeling lighter than I had in weeks. You know what? I think I am. Her face broke into a radiant smile. Well, in that case, yes. 1,000 times yes. We stumbled back into our apartment. A tangle of limbs and laughter and tears. As we fell onto the couch, Eloise suddenly sat up, her eyes sparkling with mischief. You know, she said, reaching for her phone, we did promise our followers more behind-the-scenes content. I raised an eyebrow. What are you thinking? She grinned, holding up her phone. I am thinking it's time for a live stream. What do you say we break the internet? I hesitated for a moment, old fears threatening to resurface. But then, I looked at Eloise, at the love and acceptance shining in her eyes, and I knew. It was time to be brave. Let's do it, I said, pulling her close. As Eloise set up the live stream, I marveled at how much my life had changed in the past year, from a lonely bartender to one half of a YouTube sensation, from a woman afraid to love to someone ready to shout it from the rooftops. The little red light on Eloise's phone blinked on, and suddenly, we were live to thousands of viewers. I took a deep breath, intertwining my fingers with Eloise's. Hey everyone, I said, my voice steady despite the butterflies in my stomach. We've got some news to share. As we made our announcement, watching the comments section explode with congratulations and heart emojis, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. This was where I belonged. This was who I was meant to be. Later that night, as Eloise slept peacefully beside me, I found myself thinking about the journey that had brought us here. The ups and downs, the fears and doubts, the moments of pure joy. I realized then that age really was just a number. What mattered was the love we shared, the life we were building together, and as I drifted off to sleep, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, Eloise and I would face them together. Because sometimes love really does conquer all, even if it takes a detour through a seedy motel and a slightly dramatic live stream to get there. The morning after our impromptu live stream proposal, Eloise and I woke up to a world that had quite literally changed overnight. Our phones were buzzing nonstop with notifications, our inboxes overflowing with messages from friends, family, and complete strangers. "Holy shit," Eloise mumbled, scrolling through her phone. "We're trending on Twitter," I chuckled, pulling her closer. "Is that a good thing or a bad thing?" she grinned, planting a kiss on my cheek. "Definitely good. People are calling us relationship goals." As we lay there basking in the afterglow of our engagement and newfound viral fame, a thought struck me. "Hey, Elle," I said, propping myself up on one elbow. "What if we combined our two passions?" She raised an eyebrow. "Cocktails and breaking the internet." I laughed. "Well, yes. But I was thinking more along the lines of cocktails and love. What if we opened our own bar, an friendly place where people can come to drink, laugh, and maybe even find their own happily ever after?" Eloise's eyes lit up. "Julie Bennett, you are a genius. We could call it Shaken and Stirred." And just like that, our new adventure began. The next few months were a whirlwind of planning, renovating, and of course, vlogging the entire process for our ever-growing audience. We found the perfect location, an old run-down bar in the heart of Madison's neighborhood. It needed a lot of work, but Eloise and I could see its potential. We poured our hearts, and a significant chunk of our YouTube earnings, into transforming it into the warm, welcoming space we'd envisioned. Our followers were with us every step of the way, offering suggestions for the decor, voting on cocktail names, and even helping us design a rainbow-themed feature wall that became the backdrop for many a selfie. Finally, after what felt like both an eternity and no time at all, we were ready for our grand opening. The line stretched around the block, a mix of locals curious about the new spot, and fans who traveled from far and wide to be part of our big moment. As I stood behind the bar, Eloise by my side, I couldn't help but marvel at how far we'd come. From that first nervous plane ride to this, our own bar, filled with laughter and love and the promise of new beginnings. The night was a blur of familiar faces and new friends of perfectly mixed cocktails and imperfect but heartfelt toasts. Tom showed up with a group of rowdy friends, all wearing t-shirts with our faces on them, mortifying but sweet. Even my mother made an appearance, her presence a silent but powerful show of support. As the night wound down, Eloise clinked a glass to get everyone's attention. "We want to thank you all for being here," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "This bar isn't just about serving drinks, it's about creating a space where everyone can feel accepted, loved, and free to be themselves." I squeezed her hand, feeling my own eyes well up. "Whether you are 25 or 52, I added, earning a laugh from the crowd, "love is love, and everyone deserves a chance to find it." The cheer that went up was deafening. As I looked around at the smiling faces, the couples holding hands, the individuals who'd come alone but were leaving with new friends, I felt a sense of purpose I'd never experienced before. Later that night, as we were cleaning up, Eloise turned to me with a mischievous glint in her eye. "You know," she said, "we never did get around to planning our wedding." I grinned, pulling her close. "Why plan when we can improvise? That's always worked well for us before." And so, in true Julie and Eloise fashion, we decided to get married right then and there. We called our closest friends and family, telling them to get back to the bar ASAP. Tom, bless him, got ordained online, in record time. As the sun began to rise, casting a warm glow through the windows of our bar, Eloise and I exchanged vows surrounded by the people we loved most in the world. It wasn't traditional, it wasn't perfect, but it was us. "I, Julie Bennett, take you, Eloise Perez, to be my lawfully wedded wife," I said, my voice shaky but sure. I promise to love you fiercely, to support your dreams, and to always, always, have a perfectly mixed cocktail waiting for you at the end of a long day." Eloise laughed through her tears. "And I, Eloise Perez, take you, Julie Bennett, to be my lawfully wedded wife. I promise to love you unconditionally, to be your partner in all our crazy adventures, and to never, ever let you forget how amazing you are." As we sealed our vows with a kiss, cheers erupted around us. Someone popped a bottle of champagne, and soon the bar was filled with the sounds of celebration once again. Looking around at our new bar, our impromptu wedding party, and the woman I now got to call my wife, I felt a sense of completeness I'd never known before. This was more than I'd ever dared to dream for myself. And yet, here it was, my happily ever after, shaken, stirred, and absolutely perfect. As Eloise and I stepped out into the early morning light, hand in hand, I couldn't help but laugh. "You know," I said, "I think we just gave our followers enough content to last a lifetime." Eloise grinned, pulling me in for another kiss. "Oh, honey," she said, her eyes sparkling with mischief and love, "we're just getting started." And as we walked off into our new life together, I knew she was right. This wasn't an ending, it was a beautiful, unexpected, absolutely perfect beginning.